Hello, everybody. I'm Ed Parcaut here with Francisco Rubalcava Jr., and it must be a Tuesday around 11.
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
Doing good. I saw over the weekend you had a open house sign. I was driving by and I saw you were, and it was that one house that you've done, I think, a couple times ago. How's open houses going? Anybody coming in?
Mm, it's like a much slower rate right now, but I believe for that specific house as well, more than anything, it was priced a little high. And that's something that, especially right now, if you're wanting to have quick turnarounds and I mean, me personally, I think better outcome. I always recommend trying to go anywhere from like 5 to 15,000 below where you really see the value being at on the list price. It just brings more attention, brings more offers, and it also creates that uncertainty that will, hopefully lead with a higher offer for you.
They think it what I used to call the eBay effect. It's priced under market. People, oh my goodness, and then they get in there and they got to win at all costs. So
yeah, exactly. And then,
but because the biggest problem people don't understand is because some sellers go, I'm going to price it this, and then let them give me an offer and we'll counter. Nobody wants to play that game. They want to be able to write the offer, get it accepted, so they know they get their house. They play too many of those games back in right over asking, and you'll be lucky if you get it.
right.
They want to make sure with their offer they're going to get that property, because there's nothing worse than being with 5 other offers or 20 other offers, and you're not the right person for them.
It's difficult too, because I mean, everybody takes different approaches, and then I feel like it also creates multiple different ideas or multiple different expectations for buyers, because sometimes, you'll have a buyer that's like, well, it was listed at this price, so that's the most that I'm going to offer. Right. And a lot of the times it's like I say, I mean, it always depends on how the agent goes about it. There's different tactics, different ways. Like you said, there's the way of listing it higher and hoping for, an offer to come down and then do the counter and the back and forth. There's listing it lower and having a lot of interest and having multiple offers to go through. And every time someone asks, hey, what's the offer at? I don't know, but we have this many, I don't know, but we have this many. And it kind of, it creates, it's like a stereo almost, right? Where like people are like, man, well, I don't know what I want. I really want this house. So let me just throw out this higher number to stand out. Sometimes people list right on the money, and they'll get either that offer or even a little bit more. So I always say, go there, especially right now, just with the way that, the interest rates have been, if someone has a house overpriced, people are going to notice a lot more right now because they're a lot more fixed on the number and everything.
Well, and everybody can check the value. They'll go use Zillow or something else and think they know exactly what the house is going to be worth before they even talk to you, or they have their own idea. But the question really is, do you want this house? And if this is a house for you, if you pay 5 or 10 grand over what the value is, the moment it closes, guess what? You just set the new value.
Right.
And that's what your house is worth. The problem is people want to get it under market and then don't understand that they just lowered the value of their home.
Right. It's also, and like I tell my clients too, because, I don't ever like to try to like push, a certain number or anything, right? Like at the end of the day, it's how they feel. And that's where like I'll bring up the question, right? Is like, how much do you want the house? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, like you said, that $5,000 or $10,000 in the long run is not going to make really much of a difference.
In 30 days from now, it's not going to be there.
Exactly. So it's that piece of it. And then it's also people understanding, I mean, no matter what, you're going to have an appraisal, right? So if you just need to increase the offer to get accepted, do it. And then if it doesn't appraise, then figure it out later, right?
Mm-hmm.
Negotiate then.
There's just so limited houses on the market, though, with the amount of volume. It's really difficult to overprice. If you overprice a house, it's going to get called now. Where before we were closing so many transactions. Actually, if we take it back, the last 2 years, we have not been closing that many transactions. It just seemed like it because of all the refinances that were going on. But in 2020 was the last year that we did our average in this area numbers for what we would normally do a year. 21 and 22, we weren't. We were half of what we normally would do. And we're less than that now. So what happens is if there's only 3 houses that sell in a neighborhood and they're all different sizes, all different everything, that's the new comps, whatever those are. And that's one issue about the college area is sometimes of the year your house is worth a lot of money, and sometimes of the year your house could be worth a lot less just because what is sold.
Yes,
It's not track home city. That's the difference.
yeah, and that's where, like I actually was pricing a house for somebody out in Manteca as well. And they were in a nice area, but within a quarter mile, because for the most part, all of these automatic data systems like Zillow and those sites that give you those estimates and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're running off of like a simple scheme, most of it is like no farther out than a quarter mile, 10 years above, 10 years below, as far as, when it was built. Time of sale, no more typically than 6 months to keep it relative. And also square footage, they'll try to go up about 300 to 400 square feet and go down 300 to 400.
It's 20% above and below. That's
right.
The number. Actual number is 20%.
Right.
If you're looking for the number, that's it. Because I had to do a bunch of BPOs when I was younger, so I learned how to do appraisals.
No, and those appraisals, right, are like what some people don't take into consideration is that within a quarter of a mile, there could also be anomalies, right? Where like this guy's house, I priced it out somewhere around, I believe it was like 625.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, well, a year ago, the bank called me and they told me that my house was valued at around 800. And I was like, well, same thing. I asked him, did they actually have an appraiser go out there? And he said, no. And I was like, well, they're running off of an automated system. They were taking into consideration these custom homes that were within that quarter mile radius, built relatively around the same year, but his house was more like a tract home, and those were custom homes, and they were closer to like there's like a golf course out there. So it really factored it. It made a huge difference, like $200,000 difference. But once I explained that to him, he actually understood.
Right.
But some people don't, right? And some people will try to like really push that. It just doesn't work that way. There's a lot of different factors, but nonetheless, when you're pricing, especially right now, you want to be more aggressive, because then what happens, like people got so used to like house being listed and then that following week already be pending,
mm-hmm.
that if that doesn't happen anymore, people are like, well, what's wrong with it?
Right.
So
the trend has changed.
Yeah, it's crazy to think too. When I first started, I remember.
Well, the price point has everything to do with it also.
Right.
Go ahead. Your first start. I'm sorry.
No. So it's like when I first started, I think honestly, houses were sitting for like 30 to 45 days.
Oh,
and that was normal.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
Goodness gracious.
Like that was completely normal. And
Tuolumne County is their normal period of time is 6 months.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's their normal time. And you got to remember, because they got weather to factor in, but on average, a house would normally be on the market for 6 months up there. Now, if it's on 45, 60 days, again, what's wrong with it? What's the problem? People aren't coming up as much. They can't afford the gas.
Yeah, it's all of that. And I think also as we start to see, like kind of how you were saying, the way that appraisers are seeing things. I've been seeing most appraisals come back even when they're priced a bit higher,
Mm-hmm.
coming back at value. And I think more than anything, it's just our big decline of inventory that, it's kind of like a supporting factor that they're using now,
right?
Because there's just absolutely nothing out there.
Right. We nationwide, we have 532,000. Normally we do 1.2 million in that same period of time. So there's around 700,000 short nationwide. And that's nationwide. Can you imagine where we are? We're barely going to do 151 to 160,000 purchases this year. Normally we do 450 in California. It's 450,000.
Yeah. Our numbers are like slashed in half,
Dude, it's 35%.
Yeah. It's
that when I went to school in math. I don't know where you went to school with math, but
no, it's like with my broker and stuff. We have our meetings and we pull our numbers and everything, right, too. And
it's 35% of existing home sales is where we're at.
Yeah, no, that's It's a big issue. That's obviously,
It's a huge issue, and it's not going to get any better. And what's worse is in some of these neighborhoods, like college area, and we talked about, you're most of the time you're barely going to have 3 to 4 houses on the market in that neighborhood on a normal market. And now you'll have a few, and they sell because people want the homes. But if there's anything wrong with it, cut up wrong, crazy looking stuff, it sits now.
Yeah, and those college area homes tend to be a little quirky, like they're different. They're the older style homes that have character, and I feel personally, it requires a certain buyer, because there's people that absolutely love college area. Like that's
older homes with the trees, the whole 9 yards. Yeah,
and they love it, and but it's crazy because it's driven the prices up like crazy over there.
It's always that way. Same with La Loma. It's always that way. And same with, Del Rio to a certain point. There's a certain person to buy out there, just like the college area. There's a certain person. But when your average home in some of that area is 900 to $1 million, you're like, what the heck happened? Values went up. Right. And that's why 90% of the people own a home right now couldn't afford the home they're in today.
Yeah, I think that's the big challenge, because I keep watching, different videos and stuff of like, is what's going to happen with the economy, housing market, everything. And
what do you think is going to happen?
Me personally,
lie to me.
I think that it's going to be something where our values are going to keep going up. I can't. Once I've said it many times, I don't understand how the idea of everything collapsing could be supported. Especially like just the way like my daily life, right? Every day. I literally do this every day. So I'm seeing everything, assessing everything. I'm out there, and it's just, I can't see it happening. And I know people are like, well, so many people bought that don't have equity right now, when they bought during COVID. Right. They like
whom?
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying is like, these are
so they have 5% equity, 10% equity. Most of the people out there, a third of them own their home free and clear. Another third has 50% or greater equities. That leaves a third. Of that third, how many has 5% to 10%? Whoever bought in the last year. Right.
Well, and that's what I'm saying.
What are they going to do? Walk away?
Well, these videos claim that if people, with the way the economy is going, if they start losing their jobs, right, then there's going to be undoubtedly a number of people that can no longer afford the payment, even with that super low rate that they had during COVID. And that's the idea that they're going off of, right? That eventually people are going to start not being able to pay their homes. They're going to list their house on the market, and they're not going to be able to sell it for what they bought it for during.
You sound like you're listening to that Chicken Little dude out of freaking Las Vegas.
No, this is my rebuttal to that, right? Okay, let's just say that starts happening. There's investors that are going to be buying these places up no matter what.
Right. And they'll give them money to get out. But here first, if they bought I would say probably out of the properties that were sold, a third of them out of the ones that were sold that have loans on them recently probably a third of them were FHA. Would you say that possibly?
Yes. Yeah. It was a lot.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's just say a half, right? Because there's a certain percentage that are each one. FHA has to work with you before they kick you out. They got to put together at least 12 months of missed payments as a separate thing attached to that loan before they can say goodbye and get out. So basically they have to work with you for a full year, put it to the loan. If you can make the payments that are going forward down the road, when you refinance or sell the house, you pay off that all those 12 payments. Right. All right. They have to work with you. This is not those loans that we had during 2008. VA is basically the same way. They'll work with you all the way through. Conventional doesn't have to work with you. So let's say a third of the loans are conventional. And out of that third of those loans, a tenth of them is in that situation. That's nothing.
Yeah.
We barely, during the pandemic, there's supposed to be this huge amount of people in foreclosure. We're supposed to destroy the market. We've been hearing that forever. There was the same number of foreclosure that we have on a year in and a year out basis. 250 some thousand is what the national number is for foreclosures a year.
Right. And even those foreclosures, I'll sometimes have people reach out and they're like, hey, we want to look for strictly foreclosures. Right.
Right.
And I tell them why. Like
It's a great deal. I heard about it back in 2009, 10.
Well, the reason I asked why is because it makes no difference if it's a regular house on the market. They're going to put it on the market and they're going to get, the value for it. Like
and they have to put it on the market first before they can sell it to an investor.
Exactly. So
with the new law,
even, taking that into consideration, foreclosures, it's no different than a regular house. It's going to go for what it's worth. And that's the biggest thing. And that's why, like, again, like I watch those videos and I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, okay. And again, I mean, a lot of the times it's broadcasted through what is the whole United States, right? Our market in itself is just very different. But
real estate's all about location. You're correct about that. But the issue, it's so easy to be negative. This is the thing. I could say right now the whole thing's falling apart, and I could spout so many reasons why, and I could get statistics to back me up. However, it's not necessarily the truth. The truth is nobody really knows.
Right.
I know what if we had double the inventory, maybe we had 3.5 million houses on the market in 2008 when we went into that whole bubble issue. We have 532,000. There's about 3 million less homes today on the market than we had back then. It's not going to happen. People don't have to sell their house. They don't have to do anything. Most of the people, because their rate's so low, the only people have to do something is divorces, deaths, and job transfers. That's it.
And even, I mean, and those job transfers, I feel like everyone that I hear talk about it, I mean, those companies are helping these people out either way. So it's like there's really,
that's the only things that are changing hands, though. No one's going, I think it's time for us to move up.
Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, it's what are they calling them now? The golden handcuffs, right?
Right. Well, dude, I say it's a bad relationship is what it is. It's a bad. The whole interest rate is it's abusive relationship. It is so low that you'll put your stuff on hold instead of going and doing the stuff you want to do or get a better house or better this because the rate's so low. It's like being in a bad relationship. And everybody's like, no, think about it. People stay in a bad relationship because the kids and other stuff. Well, now they're staying in this bad relationship with this house because of the rate. There's people who want to move back from Texas because they hate it. They move from San Diego there and they're like, it's hot. No shit. You're in 70-degree weather on average. And you went to that.
Right. It's, and those people that are moving, I mean, no matter where they're going, we hear it time and time again. They want to come back,
but they can't. They're stuck.
Yeah, they shoot themselves in the foot there.
That's why you're not supposed to sell your house when you go to move one of those places. You keep your house here, rent it out, go there, make sure you love it for the first year. You live a whole year there and see if you love it. Because just get through the worst time of the year, and I guarantee you're going to leave at that point. Chicago during the winter, Texas during the summer and the spring, and most of the fall.
Yeah,
it's humid. It's hot and humid, man. I was talking to so many people. It's always the complaint.
Yeah, I had a client telling me about, because I helped them buy in Ripon like a long time ago, and they were talking about wanting to go to, well, they had a job opportunity out over there in it was Idaho, and she was like, well, my husband's gonna get paid more, but I'm in one of the best school districts over here. She teaches, so she's like, I'm gonna get paid less, and then on top of getting paid less, I'm also gonna be shoveling snow.
Right, and they're gonna have to pay more for that house because Idaho's went through the roof because of us. Yeah. It's not as bad as people are saying. It's so easy to read into all these news articles because they're trying to sell papers or their blogs or say how smart they are, when in reality they have no idea what they're talking about. You can break it down and see why there's no reason we're gonna have this bubble. But we could have World War III here. With what's going on before you know it. And then we could have this bubble, but it had nothing to do with anything else except for our whole economy went to horrible because of another bumbling idiot decided to do something.
With that as well, I was trying to like look into like also what happens during those kinds of things. But like, let's say this war, right, continues and gets crazy to the point where we're further involved. I was seeing people even saying that it helps us.
Rates will go down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's in we're at
But
a weird, interesting time again, you
well,
know?
the issue, yes and no. Here's the thing: is that again, it's gonna again depend on how much our security is at whole. When 9/11 happened and we were hit and bombed, we were unsure what the hell was going to happen and who was going to hit us next. Now, if they find out that these 5+ million people who came across our borders are different types of bad guys and they're here to hurt us, like Hamas and those kind of things, that would make our whole thing fall apart again.
Mhm.
But we don't. I'm not saying that's. I'm saying that's what happened. I'm just saying that's would be a situation where that would make it better for us with rates and what we went through. But the question is, do people have jobs? Are people working, or is it like Israel and over there where they're, no one's doing anything because they're worried about being killed? So it's a bad situation, and I don't wish it on anybody, but I think we should go from there because it could just get worse with our conversation.
No, well, in either way too, I mean, nonetheless, what we're ultimately saying, I mean, there's a ton of information out there on both sides of it, right?
Mhm.
But realistically, what it really boils down to is, can you do it? Can you make it happen now? Like, are you able to handle,
The payment.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like I tell people, stop looking at the purchase price nowadays. That number, I mean, I don't want to say it's obsolete, but what matters more is, can you manage monthly?
Yeah, and don't plan on refinancing right away to make that thing happen. You have to be okay with making this payment forever. And if you refinance, that's icing on the cake.
Yeah.
But again, Francisco, thank you so much for being here today.
Nope. Thank you.
We went longer than we normally do, but we kind of got a little heated there for a little bit. I'm Ed Parcaut. I want to thank you for watching and listening. And again, Francisco, thanks for being here.